Lucas, a young medical student, was doing his mandatory internship at an old hospital located in the city center. The hospital, known as Sanatorium Hospital, had a dark reputation due to rumors of illegal surgical activities that had occurred there in the past. On that night, Lucas was on night duty. As he walked through the hospital corridors, he heard the murmurs of patients, some groaning in pain, others muttering in disturbing dreams. But that was already familiar to him. After all, he was accustomed to the hospital environment. At one point, Lucas was called to check on a patient in an isolated room at the end of the corridor. He felt a shiver as he entered the room, as the patient was lying motionless in bed, with the face covered by white sheets. When he questioned the nurse about what had happened, he obtained little information. She said, "The patient's monitoring panel indicators started beeping, so I ran to call you. Unfortunately, I need to rush to another room as we have few people on duty today, but if you need anything, you can call me." After saying this, the nurse left the room, leaving all the responsibility for that patient in Lucas' hands. With that, the young man began to examine the patient, and quickly realized that something was wrong. The heartbeats were slow and irregular, and the patient did not respond to the stimuli that Lucas applied to his body. Lucas decided to call the senior doctor who was on duty that night, but when he tried to leave the room, the lights began to flicker ominously. As he turned around, Lucas noticed that the patient's sheets were moving, as if the previously unconscious patient was getting up. His heart raced, and he took a step back, stunned by what he was witnessing. As soon as the sheets fell to the floor, something completely different from what he had examined just minutes ago was revealed. A pale figure stood by the bed, with empty eyes and a sinister expression, resembling a ghost. The air around them grew colder, and Lucas felt a chill run down his spine. His body was paralyzed for a moment as he stared at the inexplicable apparition in front of him. The ghost seemed to emit a sinister and malevolent aura, and Lucas could hardly find words to describe the sense of fear that enveloped him. He tried to call the patient by name, but received no response. The pale figure approached slowly, with dragging steps and making no sound. Lucas felt his heart in his throat, and his mind was in turmoil. Was he going insane? Or was that really a ghost in front of his eyes? Before he could react, the pale figure extended a spectral hand towards him. Lucas screamed and retreated towards the door, but the monster chased him, floating through the air. He ran through the hospital corridors, but the doors began to lock in front of him, preventing his escape. High-pitched sounds began to echo from the walls, and the sinister presence seemed to grow stronger. He called for help in desperation, but no one answered, as if the entire hospital was abandoned. During his attempted escape, some doors along the way were found to be open, and he continued desperately through them until he reached the abandoned wing of the hospital, where rumors said sinister experiments had been conducted in the past. In this wing, he found a surgical table covered in bloodstains, and various clinical instruments such as scalpels and scissors scattered around the area. Suddenly, the door closed behind him, locking him inside. Lucas heard footsteps approaching from the end of the room, and as they drew closer, he could make out 4 ghostly figures dressed in white lab coats and surgical masks. His heart raced, and he took a step back, but it was too late. One of the ghosts approached slowly, holding a syringe filled with yellowish liquid. Lucas was paralyzed, unable to move or react to the surreal scene before his eyes. The ghosts forcefully tied him to the surgical table as he struggled in vain to break free. The ghost with the syringe leaned over him and injected the liquid into his neck, whispering something inaudible into his ear. Lucas felt a wave of sharp pain shoot through his body before his vision blurred and he lost consciousness. The next day, hospital staff found Lucas' body in the abandoned room, with a frozen expression of horror on his face. There were no signs of forced entry into the room, and the door was locked from the inside. Only a few patients were able to report seeing a doctor running through the hospital corridors screaming for help during the night, but when they looked, there was no one there. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed the story. Thanks for watching and don't forget to subscribe to the channel.